Hi, it's Daniela Vers, and today Red Eye meets Sarah Mayer. Hi, Sarah, welcome.
Hi,
Welcome to Red Eye. How are
how
you?
are you? Good.
I'm very well. So today I am actually super excited for this interview because it's my first time doing an interview wearing an AR filter. And I really wanted to dedicate this occasion to you. And really, I'm wearing your beautiful infinite filter, which really love the texture and the movements. And so, would you like to introduce yourself? As you can see, you are an amazing AR artist, like also in your background and in my background. But beyond that, when did this start and how did this come about?
Yeah, so to tell a little bit about my history, where I come from, I'm from Germany, from a very small village. I grew up really on the countryside, and I loved it. But when I grew a little bit older, I started to realize that there was not a lot of things I wanted to do in the countryside. At first, I thought maybe I will become a hairdresser, and I also wasn't in a very good school, and no one told me about things like fashion or digital art that was completely out of the scope of most people. And till one day, a friend of mine, while I was still in high school, told me after seeing all my scribbles, because I was always scribbling manga characters, because that was really my world, manga, and also playing RPG games. That's kind of where I escaped. Um, and one day, a friend of mine looked at my scribbles and told me, like, why don't you study fashion? And that's the first time actually I heard about the possibility to study fashion. I didn't even know that existed. And I was 16 or 17 by that time. And I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. And I instantly subscribed to the school, like had an interview and was accepted. It was a very small school in Germany, in the south of Germany, nothing fancy. And that's where it all started. Then after that, I studied my bachelor of fashion and design in Amsterdam. And from there on, I did a course called Hypercraft, which was my first time making digital fashion. And we had to make a outfit completely as a digital design. And from then on, I actually dropped the digital route. I went back to the like traditional physical way of making fashion. So I really am trained in pattern making and the whole steps of everything, like casting models, finding photographers, like the whole shebang of the classical way of producing fashion. And then I graduated and I was kind of really done with fashion. This was also the hype of sustainability, where like every fashion designer was kind of really like, hey, you have to think about sustainability. You have to think about the impact of your creations. And everything was just a little bit too much and overwhelming for me. And fashion became a little bit strangely useless in my point of view for a long time. And I graduated in 2015, and then I did a lot of random jobs. I worked like in a lot of like strange places just to earn some money. I even sold diamonds at one point because I'm in Antwerp and diamonds are very present here. I worked in retail. I also worked so some cool jobs on a film set, and I made costumes for Holiday on Ice, which was a really great job. Everything was physical. There was no digital work involved. But in between these jobs, I taught myself Blender from scratch. I just learned it by tutorials every day. I studied for like 2 hours in the evening and started to make like strange sculpts, and just like everyone starts to learn 3D design. And at one point, which is 2019, just before the pandemic really hit in, um, I saw that these filters became really hype and accessible for many people, and they became really fashionable as well. And that was really my first time also being in contact with filters. I had not used this at all before myself. I wasn't actually much of a social media person at all. And then I downloaded this program, Lens Studio, for the first time in 2019, and I realized it was kind of easy to add my previously done 3D models that I had just created for fun into this Lens Studio program, and my very first filter became super big because I think I was one of the early starters of making like more abstract face filters instead of like the cutie stuff or the beauty stuff. And yeah, it caught up really fast. And then I also got a job for making filters really very soon, which was great because during the pandemic there was not a lot of things to do. And yeah, this is how it all started. And now we are here, and fashion has become
Yes.
really a big part of the AI industry, and it seems to become bigger and bigger. And I'm glad I started to join early on already because I could see all the like steps and little developments that happened um, during this time.
What really stands out, not only to me, but what really stands out from your work now that, we got to know more about your past background and your present, and is that it really looks you did apply in your work some sort of physicality that becomes in different shapes digitally. I can see, from for instance this filter, but also your filter masks, they do look like they come from a real product, from a real physical existing item, and then digital, but instead they're just digital. So that brings a really good like tangibility. So my question is, how do you source your fabrics for digital filters for AR, and does it come from the real world, or it's a new type of exploring new fabrics, new textures as well?
When it comes to like the textures and materials I use for my filters, I actually try to make them look completely different than what physical fabrics could be doing, because that's really one of my favorite things to do in the AR space. I love playing with all the materials available, which is why I also really like Lens Studio Snapchat filters the most. Making them, I like it the most because Snapchat has an amazing material library, and they have this one that I'm using on this mask. It's just a combination of like an iridescent material and like a soap bubble material. And I just love the like just the idea of having like a fabric made out of a soap bubble. I think that's just great, and that's just like my way of playing around till I get like a combination of materials that I think looks like still sort of like it could potentially be real, but like obviously I doubt it will be very easy to make a material out of soap bubble.
That's so interesting because if you look at the artists now, they can have a lot of accessibility to materials, to textures, to assets that were not used to be available before to everyone. That brings us, to a new way of artists co-creating with technology, like you, for instance, but also, with artificial intelligence. So, what do you think, like, can technology in this way amplify an artist, or is the artist that helps to amplify technology?
Well, I do hope it's the artist that amplifies the technology. I think, I mean, of course, everyone has their own opinion, but I always think that without the artists using the technology that has become available, it wouldn't like go anywhere. Like there needs to be the artists that start doing something with it and start creating something with it. And then everyone is like, wow, you can do that with this? And then it starts to become hype and really out there and everyone wants to work with it as well.
Yeah, so it looks like we are getting to the point where really like technology and also artificial intelligence end up coexisting with an artist in the end, and it's the artists in themselves, how they want to use that type of technology and what message and what also technique they want to use. And what I like, for instance, from you and from many other artists in the space is the self-taught process.
Mm-hmm.
Technology really allowed humans and also, of course, now artists to self-taught themselves and to improve themselves every day. From you, what aspects are you always trying to look for when learning and co-creating with technology, or improving maybe your techniques or your work? How does technology come into place, and what sort of research and vision you have?
When it comes to like improving my work, of course, I always look for like everyone does. I look for updates because nowadays programs they update like every 2, 3 weeks, right? Or every half a year. There's like something new you can do with them. And honestly, I mean, I am a Blender user, so I don't know any other programs at this point. But for example, that's also a thing. Like there's so many free source programs out there. So for me, upgrading my skills is also learning or teaching myself a new program. For example, I'm thinking of learning Marvelous Designer to be able to go also a bit more over the body instead of just the face, because I'm very much focused on the face. I would say I specialized on the face a little bit, but for me, improving my work is learning more and teaching myself even more, and then the programs themselves just keep on bringing you new possibilities to within them. Then create some new stuff with their uh, available techniques. There's just it's just an endless it's just an endless road of possibilities, but I don't have like a concrete idea of how I want to improve my skills. I just want to learn more and in that way improve.
I think the message here then is never give up and keep going, keep creating, keep learning.
Yeah, because it's definitely possible, it's definitely possible, and it's also getting easier. It's getting easier. Of course, you need always a little bit of a determination, right? You need to stick with something, and sometimes it's not easy, but it is easy, getting easier than it was like 3, 4 years ago, right? You don't need a crazy computer anymore. Most programs are for free. There's huge online communities, and just ask each other for help. That's also very important.
Definitely, definitely. There's always co-creation, is at the base of
Yeah.
learning, and educating and enriching, our knowledge of creativity as well. And what I am really obsessed, like I have to say, with art and fashion, and the fact that you did both as well, both in physical realms and now even more in digital realms. It's that they more and more we are going forward with digital art and 3D design. More we see art and fashion coexisting. For instance, the image I have in the background, and for me, when I look at the overall picture, for me, I see it as art, but I can see, oh wait, there is also fashion in here, right? They
Mhm.
both came together. So do you think in some ways digital and 3D design, and also the advent of virtual and augmented reality, did make more fashion and art coexist and come together in one piece?
Yeah, I totally think so. Actually, not so long ago, I had a discussion about that with a friend. And I think what the digital space, especially also the one that is considered as like fashion, like lots of my work, does is really that there is the line between art and fashion really blurs. And I'm not quite sure why it is so easy for people to accept that fashion can also be just simply art when it comes to the digital space. But people really do. Like, they don't draw a line, oh, this is fashion, this is art. While the first thing, for example, I've heard when I entered fashion school was like, fashion is not art. Fashion is something that people wear on their bodies. It's not something you hang on the wall and look at. That's one of the first things I was told once. Of course, times have changed, right? But
Yeah.
I think I think still that my work has really no specific headline. Like, it's not like, oh, this is fashion, oh, this is art, oh, this is like music covers, or this is like graphic design or whatever. I think it's like it can be really anything, and there's like you really don't need to label it at all. And I really love that, because it gives the creator like me so much freedom. You don't have to focus on something specific. Like, I'm not specifically looking for um, fashion related things to work with, or I don't think of my work as, oh, I want this outcome to look fashionable. But a lot of people see it as such. And that's really nice, because I am coming from fashion, but it's really not my base intention. And I think
Yes.
that's what digital work does.
And that's what I agree with you. I feel, coming back to my question, right? That comes from the like meanings of the traditional fashion industry of always having to categorize
Yeah,
what artist you are, what model you are, what
yeah,
photographer you are, if you're portrait, if you're more landscape, if you're more, and same thing art used to do with artists, you are a nude artist, you're a nature artist. Instead, now, what I really see in the space from artists like you, but also many others, I do see the fashion in it coming organically, not even out of, like the designers probably didn't even start from the fashion. It starts from
yeah,
the eye of the avatar. It starts from, many other aspects. So this
hmm,
shows us that, the two blurs, and the intention at the end of the day of the artist is to portray their vision, which their vision doesn't mean it's limited to, a pot of flowers, or, a beautiful pair of shoes, but that they
yeah,
both and them can come together in the same digital space. And that's very magnifique. And I hope,
yeah,
like, that the digital will teach to the physical as well.
yeah,
It shouldn't be just, oh, we go from physical to digital. We should also go from digital to physical. And
yeah.
for instance, for you, is there any, upcoming projects, or any also, opinion on that you have in creatively creating digital first for then physical redemption or physical being?
I just take things how they come along. I'm not really having any specific plans or ideas on how I wish or want my work to be combined with the physical in the future. Since I am considered as an artist in the fashion space, I think there will always be a sort of mix between the physical and the digital. Organically, I think it will happen. I mean, I get a lot of requests from musicians, for example. I mean, that's not. I mean, musicians, in a sense, right? They're also very much fashionable. Many musicians, they very much rely on fashion brands, because they really like to, of course,
Yeah.
need to look good on stage. They need to look good in music videos. So there's where digital fashion also comes in very handy, for example, because it gives these people an option to go even more crazy than just borrowing an outfit from a designer for the music shoot. They can have like all kinds of whatever abstract looks they want, even from scratch. They can literally work with a digital artist and create their own style in the digital with digital fashion for their music videos or album covers, etc. And I think this is where digital fashion is really great. plus plus then most likely a combination of physical fashion that they will still borrow from physical brands. I think it's a great combination, yeah.
That's so interesting, and I love how you spoke about, the models of fashion here that in digital, can become from singers to anyone, literally.
Hmm.
And, music and fashion always coexisted in the physical space. For instance, there is no catwalk without music playing in the
Mm.
background, and now it's coming into the digital space as well. Um, I was gonna ask you, looking at digital fashion and designing digital fashion, and you just mentioned artists and musicians, and so people. How important is the human body when creating digital pieces? Considering also your background in physical, how does the human body play a different role when creating digital fashion?
Yeah, I mean, many digital designers, of course, they don't work with anything, and they don't work with like a body or a face or whatever. They just really go from, hey, I'm gonna
Avatar.
make this, yeah,
Yeah, I think
or
many designers also start
yeah.
from the avatar, but in the end, some of them the dress goes on physical bodies.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for me, I think I use the human body and the human face in general, because maybe in the end, I'm not that creative. I do need some kind of base to work with, and for me, the human body is just something I guess I'm used to because that's what I've been working with now for years in the physical fashion. So for me, the human body is just like a great canvas to work on. And
Especially now that the human body can also be digital. For instance,
exactly,
when I
yeah,
mean human body now with digital fashion, you can 3D scan a model, and
yeah,
and then you're still working on a real human body but digitally. How does that
yeah.
how does make you feel, like, for instance? Is it exciting? Is it maybe easier for you as well as an artist to work on digital bodies, or is it fun as well?
Well, I think the great thing with digital bodies is then, of course, that you can again manipulate them much more into something very much different from the standard human, right? You can add
Yeah.
whatever you want, like scales, horns, ears, long ears, or whatever. You can still continue to manipulate it, and that's I think really like there's an endless amount of possibilities, just let your fantasy go wild. But why I still like to work with photographs a lot is because I do appreciate actually the normal way of how people look on photographs in a way, and then I add my work and make a sort of normal human look, um, like not, I think futuristic is almost like a bit too boring, but just it's a boring word maybe, but just make a normal person, a normal photograph stand out in a way that triggers even more imagination. I don't know how to explain it, but for example, if I work on a digital body and at my digital work, I feel like it all gets a bit too much sometimes. And I really like, because I really appreciate actually how people look like in their physical form, and everyone looks different. Everyone has their beautiful points, like beautiful, beautiful eyes, beautiful ears, beautiful nose. Everyone has something beautiful about them, and I'm kind of trying to bring that out with my digital work. So for me, editing the person in a digital space is sometimes just simply not necessary because they already look so interesting.
Yes, and I feel what I really perceive from your work as well is not only the that natural touch that comes really strong, but is also these soul bounded emotions and not only soul body but also in of the world, what's going on nowadays, for instance,
Mm.
around us. And I really like how that comes through digital beings and digital pieces. um, like, what do you think about, the coming digital space, and have you noticed any new subculture risings or any new softwares? Do you think, for instance, now that 2023 is coming, what are the new perks that we're gonna be seeing in terms of augmented realities, VR, and is it gonna be a good place for artists like you?
Oh, I mean, honestly, I'm not the kind of person who constantly looks up for the newest technology trends. I guess I'm a more of the type of designer that is like, oh, there's something new that came out last month. Let me try it out. I'm more that kind of person. But I think right now, in general, for sure, like if you haven't started with digital art yet, like there's so much stuff to come, and so much stuff to work with. And I said this already a year ago or 1.5 years ago in an interview, but I think for anyone who has any interest in entering this space, whatever your previous education was, even if you used to be a physician or studied math or whatever, I think for all these people, there's a space there to start creating, and because all these programs, they really are open for any kind of talent you have. Like you don't need to be a fashion designer. You don't need to have had been a graphic designer or any kind of education in that sense. Like if you have an idea that you want to translate into the digital space, you really can. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to. And I think that will just get more and more present because things get more and more accessible. And I think that's the main that's the main thing I'm noticing, that everything is getting so accessible because people are really hiving now. They're really swarming around the digital world. There's so much possibility, so many things to play with, and I think that will just get more and more.
Definitely, definitely. And it's gonna be this, we're gonna be seeing this organic growth,
Yeah.
because as soon as anyone's gonna understand not only the benefits but the playfulness and the limits that there are not in technology, people are
Mm-hmm.
gonna come more into the space. And I wonder, we're gonna see rising creators and rising concepts as well, especially with what's going on around us as well. And
Yeah.
we touch base at the beginning of this conversation about, you touch base on sustainability, which is, of course, one of the buzzwords that we heard in the few years because the industry, just use it as that. But,
Yeah.
people really believe in sustainability. Like me, I really, support the cause, especially now with creating digital fashion and digital art, which still, brings down what, the traditional sustainable concept is. It brings down the emissions, and it brings down, everything that the physical, didn't manage to,
Yeah.
work around. For instance, also nature, like your work comes, blends with nature a lot. Is this related to your sustainability advocate that is inside your little advocate that is inside your sustainability message that you want to, people to perceive out of your art as well and your work?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, it's just very, very important for me that that nature is staying sort of alive. I mean, and staying alive also in the digital space, I guess. But I mean, look at my work and look at the work from other creators. I mean, even if you don't know the creature or the flower or the being or whatever they have created their work after or have been inspired by. I think there is always a piece of nature in digital work, and of
And
course in
nature
mine it's
including also animals, for
yeah,
instance.
exactly,
Not only
including
we're not talking just about plant, flowers, and
yeah,
vegetation, but animals really come in the digital
yeah,
space as well. And
true.
from you, for instance, from product design to music videos and like sculpture as well, you create proper sculptures.
Hmm.
How, as nature and also being a vegan, inspired your work?
Yeah, so I'm vegan since quite a long, like, well, I'm vegan since 5, almost 6 years now.
Same. Same, 5, 6 years as
5, 6
well.
years, yeah. Um, and actually, it's strange that that I became vegan so late in life because my whole life, my whole childhood and everything was always based around nature, and everything I've done, a lot of things I've done were based around nature, and the reason why I did also get really into sustainability was also because I was concerned about nature and what all my work is doing to nature, and and I think that one of the few incidents that I could say that really impacted my switch also to digital fashion and just my complete loss in faith to the fashion industry, kind of, and being able to make a change there, even if I make sustainable fashion. I felt like this was all a bit pointless if you're looking at huge corporations that just pretend to be sustainable, and in the end also comes all down to these big corporations making the changes, and I felt so small in this world, which was a big part where I went into the digital fashion. But I think I just, for myself, growing up in nature, just realized how it changed over the years, how much it changed, how the seasons changed, and how I realized there is a change in the insects and all kinds of creatures that I grew up with on the countryside. And if you're from the city, I guess you don't realize these kind of changes as much because you've never had probably that many insects or that many things in the city flying around or buzzing or but for me, coming from the countryside, I could really, really see how nature was changing around me, and I just kind of felt a little bit helpless. I didn't really know what to do. And honestly, I'm still not really quite sure what to do, but I am just simply aware of it, and I am trying not to harm it any further with the little things I can do, like, for example, being vegan. Um, Vegan is definitely, for me, a big part of trying to help nature. Um,
I
and
love
also,
how,
yeah,
what you mentioned about the loss of animals and insects or the change in the bio nature and of it.
yeah,
Then I love how though it comes alive in your AR filters. I see many of your AR filters, they have some insects moving and flying and glooming, the art glows, the colors, and I love how it portrays positivity. And I think,
yeah,
as a vegan as well, for say in 5, 6 years, I've learned how to look at things in a different perspective and not only in a different image but also in a different context. And to be vegan and maintain it, you gotta be positive.
yeah,
You
exactly.
Yeah, you have to do, a lot of research first before going vegan. I suggest you do a lot of research to know what are the
Mm,
reasons that might bring you to that decision. But I think at the end of the day, the reasons are pretty obvious, and it's
yeah.
a way to be positive about the future and to be positive, about biodiversity that we can save by doing our little own thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not the kind of vegan that shouts out to everyone all the time and tries to teach them or anything. And I like what you said that trying to be positive. I think trying to stay positive when you're really aware of how shitty things are going
Yeah.
sometimes it is a really hard thing to do. But staying positive and trying to make pretty art and trying to sort of shout it out in like a indirect way to the world. I think this is my way of working with it, and I hope that when people look at my work and they look how I'm doing, and I'm also trying to be successful, right? So if they see this and then they see on top that I'm a vegan, maybe it does something. I don't know, maybe it will help
It
because
is something. It is
yeah.
something because you break the misconception of veganism. They might think, oh, they are a vegan, they are an activist shouting around or taking part to many protests. I did some protests as well, but I've never shouted off someone to
Mm,
impose my vegan messaging. Rather
yeah.
than, I think it's about approaching the conversation with each singular individual, if they want to talk about it. Many,
Yeah.
might have already a different perception of veganism. They might be come with a superficiality, and they might not even judge you that much. But still, it's hard to change the human brain to this, society structure that was imposed because of consume of dairy or consume of meat,
Mhm.
for at the end capitalistic financial benefits. And
Yeah, of course, it's all political. It's all
it's
from
all
the
political at the
top
end.
chain down, from the richest people that influence the politicians, that influence the world in general. So I think for me, like the way I do things, I think I could sometimes I feel like I should maybe do more, but then again, I'm also just a person that just wants to be and wants to live, just like the people that are not vegan, right? They just want to
Exactly.
be and just want to be left alone also sometimes. So I just actually wish that it was like that for vegans as well, that it would be so normal just to be vegan and would be just such a normal thing that half the population is vegan, right? Or hopefully in the future, much more than that. I just wish it was normal, I just wish there was actually not even a discussion about it. Should you be vegan or shouldn't you be vegan? Like, I think it should be just a completely normal thing and a normal diet that you don't have to talk about when you go for dinners and stuff like this. I don't
Exactly.
understand.
It
I don't
should just
understand why.
be on the menu. You
Yeah, I don't
know?
understand why it's still sometimes such a big deal, It's so known by now, but still you have to deal with like weird situations sometimes, and that's just a little frustrating. I just want to be, and so like everyone just wants to be, and I think there's still a long way to go to get to this point, but yeah, I just gotta stay positive, like you said.
Exactly. And keep communicating it in your art with beauty as well.
Yes.
And before we close off, I really would love to have, now that 2023 is here, I would love, to have a glimpse back to your amazing art that this year came out and really, brought this message around, brought a new aesthetic. First of all, like congratulations for it will be one of your recent exhibitions, which
Thank you.
was at the Bosch Museum in the Netherlands. Um, how was for you displaying this at this exhibition, and also what art did you display and why?
I mean, I'm super happy about any space that would
I think
show
this
my.
one was displayed as well.
Yeah, this one was displayed as well, and two more. And yeah, I mean, it's awesome, I mean, for me, digital art in general, getting into museums is just so great. I mean, 2 years ago there was not much interest, or people you wouldn't like if you would ask someone,
Exactly.
hey, can I show my digital art in a museum? Like people would probably be like, huh, what? But now it became such a big switch in thinking, and people also just produce so much amazing work. So it has to be shown in museums. It has to be out there on massive screens.
And I don't even
And
think you know that the term exhibition is still the right when it comes to digital. I think the term is experience.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Definitely.
true. It's becomes more of an experience because most of the time it's also moving images, and the setup usually is much more engaging. And indeed, you can be part of the exhibition in the case of AR filters, for example, or anything that works with cameras, right? So it's true. It's experience is definitely a better word, but I don't really care what people call it. I just want digital art to be recognized as like proper art that should be seen by all kinds of people, old, young, as a proper art form. And also, I think it's just so inspiring. When I look for inspiration, of course, I look at nature, but I also look at other digital art. And I think, for example, especially also physical fashion designers, this is exactly what they do. They look now at digital art a lot and turn it into physical fashion, which I sometimes find really funny. They make it look exactly like digital art, but in physical. So I think it inspires so many people, and it has to be out there and be seen by people that have nothing to do with the digital art space.
Definitely. And for instance, as we mentioned before, 3D is playing a big part on this. For instance, even this piece that has is behind me. Of course, I can tell it's digital, but could also be very realistic in real life
Yeah.
through 3D printing, and I really see, I see the future where one day you will be buying a digital dress, but then it will be
Mm.
printed out for you as well.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah. I get a lot of people ask me if they can borrow the masks for shootings, but yeah, they obviously they don't exist, so they can't really borrow them. But 3D printing some of these pieces in the future is definitely a plan as well, because like you say, like who knows what's gonna happen, right? Who knows what these 3D printers can do in the future? You can 3D print probably fabric as well very soon, like
and
really proper.
also exactly, and also for instance, AR can be printed, like you have a
Yeah.
piece of paper and it becomes alive, like the one you did for a gallery as well, I feel.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, anyways, I'm still thinking a lot about people wearing physical things on the street and stuff. But if you think about it, like a lot of the population of the world is spending their time behind the computer in virtual spaces. So who knows? Maybe we won't even need to print anything. Maybe it's just enough in the future to wear it digital, because most of the time, right, when people wear something like really crazy or abstract, that's not necessarily to go to the restaurant or to go walk in the streets. It's most of the time to take like pictures and then post them on Instagram, and to look to show off their style, and to show like the most interesting designs out there. So maybe it's not needed, to go physical at all. Who
Yes,
knows?
and with this, I want to conclude the interview with a wish. Like, let's a wish towards, the industry adopting digital more than physical, for instance, in their influencer
Mm,
campaign or in their any kind of campaign. I think that is the wish of the next year coming, and I feel the industry will eventually move towards that because once they realize the time that they save and also the budget that they might save and also their footprint, then
yeah,
we are getting there.
yeah, I very much hope so. I very much hope there's going to be an understanding from the people who are really in charge the rich people, the politicians. I hope that the digital space can become so big that all these people will be influenced and inspired by all the things we can do just on our computer, right? just you just need your little desk and your computer, and you
That's
can
all you
create
need.
like yeah.
I mean,
And you
thank you,
can
Sarah, for this like dive in into realms of your work, and also you as, you know, not only an artist but also as a human being, and in both physical and digital space. And thank you again for your amazing filter. Like, I think we
yeah.
nail it this time. I love this. And I just really wish you, you know, not only the best, but the better for you. And I hope to welcome you back in Red Eye soon as well. And thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
joining.
This was really fun.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.